Hey everyone, welcome back to Getting Started with Rive Part 2. My name is Mark and I'm going to show you folks how to create the logo that you see, this animation and logo that you see on the right hand side of the screen using the Rive app. Last time we worked, we set up this entire screen. So if you have not figured out how to do what we have so far, why don't you go ahead and check out the video linked in the description to see part 1 and then come back to part 2 so you can see how we're going to add the next part. Today we're going to jump right into this crown and I'm going to show you how I did it. This file, everything that you see here, the setup, you can actually get this exact file and you can fork it so you can mess with it, add your own animation, and let me know how it goes. Okay, let's get into it. Now, I have everything set up in nodes here, and remember those nodes are like a container, and so now I can just hide the things that I don't want to see right now by clicking on the eye. Okay, now that's the visibility. So now I have the visibility pretty clear. That is gone. Bop. All right, now I'm going to make a new node because I like to keep things in groups. It makes my life a lot easier. I'm going to go to the Create Tools. I'm going to click on the node. I can also hit G on my keyboard. I'm going to drop the node in the middle of the screen. I'm going to go up to the positioning. I'm going to align center and then align middle. Next, I'm going to jump down and go to the creation tools again. I want to go to shape and I'm going to go to square. We're just going to draw a square in the middle of the screen. The size isn't really as important quite yet because we're going to be able to manipulate the size later on. I'm going to go up to the positioning again, going to align center, and then I'm going to align middle. Oh wait, first you have to select it. Align center, and then align middle. So now I am about in the middle of this node, which is helpful for me. We didn't do too much with shapes last time. We stuck with the basic shapes, but this time we're going to go a little bit deeper. Now, what I want to do is I want to convert this square into this crown shape. The way we're going to do this is going to be a little bit more of the tricky side, but I'm going to walk you through it so you can understand how I figured this out and what would make me make the decisions that I made here. A shape has two parts to it. So I have the shape side where I can change the fill and the stroke and some other properties like the rotation. Then it has the vector path that I can go inside. If you look at this edit vertices, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 because a vertex is just a corner, right? It's like an angle. Well, it's where two lines connect. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, if we look at this crown, I'm going to show you what I see that's going to help us out. And I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, how did I know those are vertices? Remember when I said that a vertex was going to be with two lines connected? Sometimes you can even see it as an angle. So I can notice that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, if we go back to our Rive workspace, I already have two vertices at the top. To get more, I'm going to click on the pen tool, V on the keyboard, and I'm just going to add some more vertices. So I have one. I want another one. Okay, so I'm going to bring the guides in, and this is going to help me keep things centered. So I'm going to drop this guide just about the center. It's okay if it's not absolutely perfect, but for me, this is going to be good because I want to keep that center point of the crown. So I have to go back to my pen tool. I'm definitely going to drop a vertex right here. And then I'm going to eyeball this and hope that it's the same. I'm sure there's a way to get closer. Hope that's the same. Okay. Now, check this out. I want to go back to the translate tool. I'm going to hit T on my keyboard, which goes back to the translate vertices. Now, what I want to do is I want to find one of these, and I'm just going to drag it down just so you can see what happens. Now, I'm using that vertical handle, so that way I go straight down. And then I'm going to go here, and I'm going to add another guide. Just as we're starting out, I'm going to drop one right there, and I'll show you why that's important. Now I'll click on my next vertex. Then I drop this all the way down until I am at the same height, and I'm eyeballing it based on the red arrow to see if the same height as the other vertex. So now I kind of have a crown. Okay, not all the way, but let me show you what else I can do. Now I'm going to take this bottom vertex on the bottom right hand side. I'm going to go over just a bit until I start to get that angle that I'm looking for. Then I'm going to go to the opposite side and I'm going to try to make the same change. That looks pretty close. And I'm okay if this is not perfect. Now, if we look at it, it looks okay, but it's not exactly right. But we're going to manipulate it some more to get the look that we want. So I think the crown is way too tall. So I'm going to take this vertical handle on the y-axis and I'm just going to bring it all the way up so my crown's a little bit more stocky, a little bit more short here. And then I'm going to drop a guide right there so when I bring up this vertex, I can bring it up to the same height. And so these guides are just going to save me just a little bit of time in finagling things. Okay. Now, if I'm looking at it, it's actually not that far off. Yes, there are some things that we can finagle, so let's go ahead and make some changes. So I'm going to select this one. I'm going to drag it over. Drag, drag, drag until I get the bottle width. Okay, that looks better. Looks good to me. Now, if we go back and if we zoom in, I notice that I have some rounded corners and that these points are a little bit lower than the main point. So go back to our guide so we can keep everything at the same height. So I'm going to drop another guide just about where I want it to be. And it's really kind of eyeballing at this point because I don't have the exact measurements. But I'm going to use this vertical handle once again so that way I'm not changing on the x-axis. I'm going to go right back on this side. I'm going to do another one just like that. Okay, look at that. Look at that. Tell me you don't like that energy. Tell me you don't like that energy. So we are so close. Now with a little bit of manipulation, we've created the crown. I think that we can still do better. We're going to round the corners of our vertices here. So we're going to do each one of these. So I'm going to go, if I'm being honest with myself, I feel like that's about right. So about 50 feels about right, or maybe 45. Yeah, 45 feels crispy here. Okay, now we're going to go down here and we're going to do the same thing. Change it to 45. Now the top one, I'll get back to that. We'll do this bottom corner. This one actually isn't a 45. This one's going to be like a 10 or a 15. Okay, see, that was the right idea. Again, how did I know that? Well, that comes from just practicing with the tool. It's not something I'm calculating. I want to see what looks right. And that's one of the hardest part for me as an engineer, is accepting that some things will not be scientific and that I just have to try it and go back and forth until I get what I'm looking for. Let's go to this top vertice, or excuse me, this top vertex. I feel like 25 is my answer there. Now that looks like that crown. Can you see what I'm talking about? So this one looks a little bit smaller than I would want. So I could spend some more time and maybe do a 50 here, get a little bit rounder, or I could mess with the vertices. So I'm just going to change this to 50 and call it a day. Okay, that looks good enough for now. And if we need to go back and change it, we can. I'm going to click on Done Editing because I am actually done editing. So the next step is we need to get the color for the main part of the crown. Use your favorite tool to get that color. Click on the shape. Then when you go to the fill, you're going to paste in that value. For me, that value, I see it as FFC800. Bam. Look at that. Looks real good. Okay, that looks great, but we're not done yet. But we have a part of it. Now, here's the part that was kind of tricky for me. I was looking at how would I do this white outline that seems to cut into the other shapes, but I'm just going to update the stroke and see what I can get. So far, so good. Now, let me change the stroke thickness. Okay, so I have the outline, but if you notice, my corners are not what I wanted them to be, and that is because if you look at how this works, let's zoom in a bit. I'm going to zoom in just a bit so you can see. Now here's the main outline that the stroke is based on. If you see that when you grow, the stroke is growing on both sides of that line. So that's not what I want because it changed my internal corners. So that's not what I want. So I'm going to drop the stroke for now, but I'm going to do another trick that I've learned from practicing. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste it. So copy and paste. Now I have one on the top and one on the bottom. How can I tell which is which? Well, let's do it this way. Let's go to the layers, to the draw order. So this is the top one, but the one I want to work with is the one underneath. I want to drop the fill. I want to give it a stroke, and you already see what I got there. It inherited that previous stroke, so now I have that outline without a lot of hassle. Now let me explain to you what the effect here is. If I hide it, this is the underlying crown. So it's a copy of my previous shape with no fill. I could add a fill, didn't matter. Here's my underlying crown. So it has the thicker white stroke, and because I copy and paste it and it pastes it in the same position, it's what I want. Now, here's the better thing about all of this. Because I went here and I made it this node, I'm going to name this to crown. Because I made it this node to crown, look at the advantage that I have. I can select this node and move the whole thing around in conjunction. If I click on this circle, I can start to mess with the rotation. You see, I have a lot of awesomeness that I get to work with here. Now let's bring back our full picture. Okay, so this crown is way too big. So instead of changing it from there, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to scale it down. I have a couple of tools I can use. I can use a scale tool if I hit S. And then I have these little tiny handles which I can choose to scale this down. And I'm going to select this one, but I'm going to hold down the shift key. So that way I maintain my ratio. There, that shows me. Okay, look at that. You got to feel good right now, right? If you're looking at this, you have to feel really good about the work that you've done. I'm going to copy this one. Copy. I'm going to paste it. And I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. I have an idea. I have another copy of this crown, but just the crown part. I'm going to change the fill on this to just be any other color versus the other one. So if I want to do that, that's fine. Okay, so I'm just going to do a darker color. So now I'm going to manipulate this one. I'm going to go into edit vertices, which takes me right into here. So if we look at this shape, we don't really see the same amount of vertices. So I want to delete some. So I want to select one, delete, select. Okay, I'm not going to delete that one. I'm not going to delete this top one, but I am going to delete this vertex. Okay, can you see what the mark is cooking? All right, so I'm going to drag this down. Okay, so now I'm dragging to the left. Okay, my plan might actually work. Here's what we're going to do. Now we're going to take this thing. I want to try scaling it down just by using the handles here. Okay, then I'm going to move it. Now I want to make sure that I get the same look. So now I'm closer. So let's get the actual color for this. Let's select the shape. Let's go to fill. Let's paste it in there. Okay, now we got the actual color. Okay, sounds, oh, feels so good. So now it looks really close, but if you notice that this one is way rounder here, and it goes into like a little bit of a dip, so we're gonna just manipulate it until we get what we want, and we can make it a little bit less aggressive on that side. So let's address the dip or the roundedness of this corner. So we change this vertex. Just gonna round that thing out just like that. You see what I did there? I just rounded it out up the corner radius there. We got that going. Then if you see here, this is a couple of problems here. We are gonna move it over a bit, and we're gonna move it down because it's not as high. Gonna move it down. And so the radius is too sharp here. So I'm gonna, the radius is too intense. So I'm gonna do something like that. Okay, so now I got that going. Now I'm gonna go down to the lower lower vertex here. Drag it over, drag it over, drag it over. Eyeballing it looks okay. Okay, then I do done. Ta-da! Now we have what looks pretty similar. So this shape here, we can actually make that more accurate. I'm going to show you how to do that. So this is where some finagling comes in. So this vertex, this is a straight vertice. I'm going to try a couple of different ones, see if I can get it just a little bit more swoopy. This one looks more swoopy than mine, and I like the swoop. So let's see if we change to mirrored. It's going to take you all out of whack. Don't panic. Grab one of these handles and start moving it back to the way you want it to be. And the closer you move, you see, you get a little bit more control. So I'm going to bring it in to get my shape back. Okay, so I got kind of the swoopy that I want. So mirrored means that when you're updating these handles, it's making this same update on both sides. Maybe I want detached. Maybe I want one handle to have a freedom of expression and then another one to have a different freedom of expression. So that sometimes is the answer, sometimes it's not. Okay, so let's do done editing. Okay, I feel like it's better and worse. So the question is, how much time do you spend on something like this, right? When you're designing something, you have to ask yourself, same thing when you're doing engineering, same exact principle here. You ask yourself, how much time do you want to spend on it versus like what's, what meets your needs. And when you're making art, nothing's ever perfect. One other thing I can try is I can try to drag this out a little bit. See, like that. Okay. That actually looks a lot better, but I'm still not getting at this corner, the swoop that I want. But I'm not going to spend more time on it for now. If it becomes an issue, then we'll change it later. But if we look at this as a whole, watch this. Look at how nice that looks. Come on. You got to be kidding me. Look at how nice that looks. And now we got the same shape that we were looking for, that outline that we were hoping for. Now I'm going to create this thing, this half circle here. I'm going to create this for this particular thing, but I think that there are a bunch of ways to do this. So I'm going to do a shape here. Well, what happens if I did an ellipse? I'm just going to try it out on the side here. Did an ellipse. I gave it, so this is the same color as the highlight. So we got the same highlight color, so we can go there and copy that. Okay, so we're going to fill it. Or no, we can actually give it the stroke of the stroke that we want. Give it that. Change the thickness to be whatever the stroke of this gray one is, and I'll show you what I mean. So you kind of start to look at this, and okay, so go to translate, so I can move it around, and then you can kind of mess around with the thickness. But just hear me out for a second. So here's what I'm thinking I can do. There's a thing called a trim path, and I think I can go either sequential, and then I'll say start. Yeah, see. Now watch me go. A couple of things we can do here. So if I work with the trim path, so first let's find out about our big circle. That's the first thing. Let's go to the background so we can knock that out now. I want a 29 stroke and 495, 495. Okay, so I got a 29 stroke. I'm going to change that here. 29. And then I want to go 495, 495. Now I want you to see kind of where I'm going and what I'm doing here. So I'm going to drag this into the same position as this other one. And if I did a center, I bet you it'd be exactly what I wanted. Okay, perfect. Now I'm going to rotate it a bit. Rotate, rotate, rotate. Fill is going to be none. So it's outside. Okay. We can, but hear me out. How I want to get this rounded corner, it's going to be really, really fun. I want to do the cap and make it round. And you can also look at joints, but the cap is like going to be the end. So watch this. So now you also know something else now. You also know how to do the animation where if you want to do like someone completed the circle, you just do an animation on the trim path. Oh, look at that. Look at you learning. You're learning some stuff. Okay, so this is going to be just about right there. Bam. Feels good. Let's go to the draw order. Let's just bring it down underneath what? The crown. So I'm going to go that way, and then I'm going to rotate it by clicking on the circle. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's so good. That is so good. Now we just got to fix this thing. So we got a couple of options that we can do. I would probably either do my stroke again, or I have the same stroke technique, or I do something else. So I could, let's see, let's go back and let's do, I guess this belongs in the background someplace. So I'll put it with the background so that way I can manipulate it as I please. Let's see what this is. Okay, so we'll call this, we'll give this one a name. We'll call this one the progress. Okay, that way we can keep track of it. And if we want to get that, well, there's a couple things we can do here. If we go to our artboard and change the background to white, that will also help with the way this looks. See, now it looks almost identical. So I changed the artboard to white, or if you don't want to do a bright white like this, you could also tone it down. But more importantly, I'm thinking about this. How can I get the stroke that I want to show up around here? And I'm going to try my same trick. I'm going to do this. I'm going to say that the thickness is, let's say, higher. I'm going to change it to white. Okay, not the what we want, but hear me out. Let me show you what we're going to do. We're going to change progress here, and then we're going to do it like that. There you go. So then what I ended up doing was moving the copy. So I have a copy of my progress ellipse path. I think that's the white one right here. Okay, so we're going to call this progress outline. Now that you see that, so now we got the progress outline. If we just raise the stroke up some more, we will get the same thickness that we're hoping for. And there you go, folks. There you go. Feels so good. So good. But wait, you might be saying, what about this one? How can we create this one? I'll show you how to do that, because that's actually a really cool thing. Right now, Rive does not support text natively. I'm sure you could import something if you try, but I have a better thing to do. This one is two shapes. Let's look at the one here. Let's look at the one. I see two shapes. This is actually a great time for us to use a different shape. We can try to use the pen tool to accomplish drawing this. So for this one, let me show you a way we can do it. I'm gonna take the pen tool. I'm gonna click one point, hold down my shift key, click another point. I'm done editing. It doesn't have a fill, but it definitely has a stroke. Let's get the color for that brown. Bam, CD7900. That's that brown. And now let's change the thickness. Aha, you see what we got? Okay, feels good. Then we just change the cap. Now we got a rounded corner. So now we have that part. And if I really want to be fun, let me do T to translate, just so I don't like mess around. I'm gonna copy this, Control C, Control V. Then I can take it and I can turn it. So now I have that angle, but now let me grab the handle here and let me change the dimensions. Now I have the one. But the thing that I didn't do here that I should have done, or what I'm going to do next, is I'm going to put it in the group so I can keep them together. Hey, future Mark here. I realized that when I was doing this step, I had a lot of mistakes and it just took about 5 minutes of trying to get everything set up. So I skipped that part, but here, let me break it down. I created a node, then I recentered my two vector shapes inside of that node. I hid the background so I could see the color and isolate it, and then that's where we're going to pick back up. Then I have to be perfect. Now I can move this whole thing inside the one, and then I can move the one inside of the crown. So now when I bring everything back, now we can work with our one. Let's move this around. Okay, drop it right there. Drop it right about there, and then let's just take the scale all the way down the same way we have it now. Okay, so you see what happens? My stroke is getting kind of weird. So here's what you have to do for that. So I'm going to undo my changes. I need to go back here. I need to go into the paths that I have, or the shape, excuse me. Go into my shapes. I'm going to say stroke, transform effect stroke. Make sure that's on. Transform effect stroke. Make sure both of those are on. So we can pull this out of here. That shouldn't be in there. There we go. One. And okay, great. So now you see the stroke is not what we want it to be on this one. So let's fix that back the way it was. Okay, there we go. I think that's right. Let's look at the stroke for the other one. That's 32 stroke. Interesting. Okay. So now I'm going to scale this thing down. Okay. Look at that. Oh, give yourself a round of applause. Love it. Now if we go back to our hierarchy, select the white, or excuse me, we go back to our hierarchy and then we select our artboard, change it to white. As the words of the great artist Lil Nas X would say, can't nobody tell me nothing. Because this looks like, oh, look at that. We built this. Now, think about how far you've come so far with these two lessons. Beforehand, you would not have been able to make something like this, and now with just a little bit of work, you've been able to make this. All right, everyone. Oh, it's been so great to hang out with you. I have had a blast doing this. If you like this video, go ahead and use your artistic thumbs to give it a thumbs up. Then if you really want to see more of these, let me know. Comment down below if you got questions or you want to see me try to make something. Let's do it together. Let's learn together. Let's grow together. Until the next time, friends, stay awesome.